Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. I own dozens upon dozens of Uno games, each of them having at least 112 cards and numerous amounts of plastic. If the word hate was inscribed on every nano angstroms of those cards, written 1,000,000 times on each side, it would not match even 0.000000001% of 1/1,000,000,000th of the hate that I feel for you at this specific moment. Hate. I hate you. Bubsy!
Ah, boy. Bubsy the Bobcat. I am sure you've heard of him. The Prince of Personality, known for his big, never-silent mouth and his inability to stay dead. Created by the late Michael Berlin, a developer who made a name for himself in the industry by developing text-based adventure games for multiple game studios, such as Infocom with Infidels and Cutthroat. What the fuck? And most surprisingly, Keith the Thief under EA and the studio that would become Naughty Dog. But after a while, he was tired of the text-adventure genre and wished to make a platformer-based game in the vein of Sonic the Hedgehog and approached the publisher Accolade, previously known for games like Hardball and Star Control. Inspired by classic cartoons originating all the way back in the Flesher era, Accolade, like many other companies back in the 90s, wanted a mascot to call their own. The scrimblo bimblos, such as Awesome Possum James Pond, Cool Spot, Mohawk, Chuck the Head, Earthworm Jim, Cow the Kangaroo, Mr. Nuts, Rocky Road, and Dynamite Head, Socks the Cat, High Seas Havoc, Rice Arrow. We have Mario at home. They started strolling when the hawk came rolling. Rock the Electric Jester, Boogerman and Glover, Rocket Knight, Clonoa, Bonksel, Gex, and Pluck. Zero the Kamikaze Squirt. Excuse me, what? Holy shit, there are a lot of them. I could have filled the whole song with these. There's, Woody. Oh, my apologies. I mean, Wild Woody! There's Oscar, who's like Bubsy, except he had the common courtesy to fucking die and stay that way. And of course, who could forget Jizz Jackrabbit? By Epic Games. Yes, that Epic Games. Creators of Fortnite, the fourth thing on that planet I want to see die the most. Where's his Fortnite skin, huh? Thanks to the talented artist Ken Macklin, Bubsy the Bobcat was born after many different design drafts, including What the Fuck and Fucking What? And after all that, Bubsy was created. What could possibly go wrong? Where do I begin? Where else but the beginning, down the road of good intentions leading to hell itself. This is Bubsy, claws and counter of the third kind. God, I wish I was playing Silk Song again. Hey, I don't like to be negative. Let's start with the positives. Bubsy's voiced by Rob Paulsen. He sounds like a skid mark that had a voice, and none of his voice lines are funny or charming or even in a cringe way. I just like Rob Paulsen. The soundtrack has some good songs that aren't ear-grating to me. Most of it is a fusion between clown music and penis music, creating a new avant-garde style music I dub as clown penis music. Yeah, that's about it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, this game sucks. Where do I fucking begin? Probably the controls. You have a very awkward jump that's very high and hard to control, that you can pair with a glide that's unruly as hell to steer, and using it to correct your jumps is a pipe dream, especially to Bubsy's cracked out momentum system. Run in just one direction for about a second and you already take off like a sporadic ballistic missile, and coming to a full stop is almost a pain since his paws are like soap and he slips around with all the grace of a dog on ice. It's a bobcat. Having good balance is like that whole thing, just like how they can glide, and the reason this is a pain is because Bubsy Bobcat is a brittle bitch who's all bark and no bite. Everyone kills him in one hit, and I mean everything. Even things that seem like harmless background details, and the only way to kill the other things is by jumping on their head, which isn't 100% guaranteed to work, so my strategy is to avoid enemies via jumping very high and gliding over everything, which isn't very hard, since the level design for most of the game really does not ask much of you. It's simple and often repeats set pieces and geometry, as well as the local themes like zones and acts in Sonic. The difference is that Sonic had actual thought in its design. A YouTuber making a good comparison with Sonic, Bubsy really was groundbreaking. We got village, carnival, train, in desert, river, forest. The themes are the only thing I remember in these levels. They all blend together very easily, especially in difficulty, because all these levels got their fair share of cheap deaths with horrible enemy placement, since the screen is zoomed very close in on Bubsy. And they try to fix this with the ability to zoom the screen in like in Mario World, except in that game you never need it because it never has an enemy that can kill you from off screen, either by rushing at you or hitting you when you can't see them. It heavily discourages me from exploit, not that there's much incentive to other than gathering yarns for extra lives, since you'll easily burn through the 9 the game automatically gives you. Oh, and you must think you're so clever. Only thing else are the bonus rooms, which are just lava slides that are They're a power-up, just one, and makes Bubsy invincible, and blackface. What the hell, Bubsy? I know you're inspired by the older cartoons, but you just don't do that. Motherfucker must think he really is invincible. So in the ending, Bubsy flees Earth to avoid being cancelled and continue his genocidal rampage against these walking dicks named Woolies. He kills their queen, Esther and Polly, who just wanted the yarn to make clothes the cold void of space. And Bubsy doesn't care, he just wants to kill people to satisfy his drug-fueled rampages. Hollywood truly does make monsters. Bubsy gets away with everything, bastard. And that was Bubsy Claw's encounter of the third kind. I hated every second of this, but it somehow sold well, and thanks to the evil of capitalism, we got more Bubsy, more games, and somehow, by the will of the diarrhea gods themselves, Taco Bell, we got an animated pilot starring Bubsy back in the 90s. And it somehow achieves the baffling accomplishment of being both nothing and way too much all at once. It truly is a sight for the soon-to-be blind and deaf. The animation is competent even for the time, but the sound design is the most Gen C ADHD torture I have ever witnessed, or I guess heard. And I can't even remember what the plot was. I refuse to watch this more than once. The only thing I remember is the characters. Arnold Armadillo, Bubsy's gay husband, forced into a loveless marriage with him, only for the health insurance since this guy's hospital bills must go through the fucking roof. What the hell did this guy do in a previous life to deserve this? That's what I want to know. Also Virgil. No one liked this, not even the team behind the original game, and especially Michael Berlin, who left Accolade due to them not wanting him to pursue more games with any of his other characters, so the next game would be done without his involvement, and you can definitely feel that in the game itself, because it somehow got even worse. The team behind Bubsy 2 allegedly hated this game and didn't even give two cat shits in the litter box about quality assurance. God, I wish I was playing DK Bonanza again. I'll even take Emerald Rush. The only thing this game has over the first is that Bubsy now has a health system. You can now take 3 hits and you restore them with bandages. Other than that, most of the problems have been carried over with no fixes, like the controls, that are even worse, the level design. The only other new thing in this game are the items, like the Nerf gun, which is as useful as a Nerf gun since the ammo is limited and it's hard to hit the enemies so that don't hold still, which are most of them, and the damage ain't that good and enemies take multiple hits to kill now. There's a bomb that behaves like a screen nuke, actually pretty handy for when the game likes to put a bunch of enemies on the screen. There's the scuba gear, which I'm not sure why they let me use in any level that isn't the one level I'll need it. And then there's Bubsy's portable hole. It does nothing. So in this game, Bubsy and Arnold, against his will, takes Bubsy's cousin Shit and Stain to a big amusement park run by Oinker Fam and gives a shit. So the game starts with the choice of either going to the east wing or the west wing. Each side has 3 floors with 5 levels each that can be played in any order, and like in Bubsy 1, each theme has 3 levels each. Both sides play out the damn same, and yes, I played both routes and I could barely tell a difference. The levels are loosely based on history points since the villains are stealing time or some shit like Mario's Time Machine. They're not even ripping off good games anymore. We got pyramids from ancient Egypt, Camelot, I mean Camelot from medieval time, a pirate level, why am I in space? Music level, bro thinky Rayman LMAO, and the Hindenburg incident. I'm sorry, what were they smoking? Because clearly no one told them no with that, or these levels, because other than the shitty automated plane levels with needle and the thread like obstacles, the normal on foot levels are way bigger and they are easier to get lost in, and it sucks. The only thing that guides you are the arrows, which are not a wonderful thing, because if you need to point the player where to go in a level, that shows a failure of both level and game design. A common way to make a player go where you need them to, or guide them to progression or even a secret, is via the level design or using collectibles. For simple linear 2D platformers, this is less of a necessity, but for more explorative focus games like Metroid or Sonic, you need more arrows and signs to show the player where they need to go. The gameplay went from boring and annoying to tedious and infuriating. I gave this game more than a generous chance to prove itself over the original, like any sequel should try and do, but Bubsy is a massive step back in the series and we're already at the edge of the cliff. And oh, there's fall damage in this game. I forgot to mention that. Just like how I forgot Bubsy 2 for the Game Boys on the collection, and apparently almost the devs did too. Bubsy on the go. Actually, just walk away from this one. God, I wish I was playing Sonic. Like, anything from Sonic, and I do mean anything. I should have just taken their advice, there's really nothing to say. It's a shrunken Bubsy 2 with barely half the content from the console game, with less than a quarter of the thought into the design. I'm guessing they didn't have the budget to fully support 2 games to be made at the same time. Ah shit, it's always at the worst time. Hello? I'm sorry, what was that? 3 games at the same time. They made a Bubsy for the fucking GAG! God, I wish I was playing anything else. And here we have Bubsy 3 for the Atari Jaguar. Bubsy Fractured Furry Tales, the follow-up to Bubsy 2, 2 months later. During the development of Bubsy 2, Atari, known for making very good business decisions, approached tHankless for an exclusive Bubsy game on their very popular and successful platform, the Jaguar. But since they were still busy with Bubsy 2, development for Bubsy Rupture's VeggieTales fell on Imagitech Designs, a UK-based game studio of at the time around a dozen people with a QA team in California at Atari, with the communications that would be on par with metal cans attached to strings. And what we got was a game that combines the worst aspects of the previous 2 Bubsy games with none of those games' very few redeeming qualities, and double and even tripling down on the same problems. Janky ass hit detection mixed with Bubsy's busted ass momentum system leads to a lot of unfair deaths. Like how fast it just cuts to the title card, it could even play the death animation. Horrible enemy placement with enemies coming at you off screen, which doesn't help the fact that Bubsy dies in one hit yet again, removing his health system. And these enemies, my god, we got Tweedledick and Tweedledouche over here that's on fucking sight with you with their yo-yos thinking they're a fucking Brit-it, and jumping over them is a pain with these balloons they filled with mustard gas. How else could a balloon kill me? And despite being based off specific characters, they're copy and pasted everywhere on the map, like everything else, such as the repetitive environmental design, as in there's only 5 levels they repeat 3 times, that are all infuriatingly easy to get lost in, these labyrinthious levels, which most of the time has you look for one or multiple switches to remove a spiked wall, which is easier said than done, because if you find the door just from wandering around aimlessly, because there's nothing to guide you other than the spare arrow. Oh, how wonderful! You just gotta find the switch or switches, and when, or rather, if you find it, hopefully you'll have enough time to get back to the door. But no, don't go too fast, because we've flooded the levels with stage with a bunch of annoying-ass enemies that reminder kill you in one hit! So I hope you like treading slowly and carefully around these horribly dull levels with some of the worst music and sound design in the series has had yet. Much like the dev team of Bubsy 2, they did not care about quality and did not like working on this game. Can't say I blame them. What's there to like? The design and art? Maybe, but even still, the main artist Ken Macklink left at this point. There's not even a little comic by him. The story is that Bubsy is in old fairy tales for some reason, because they're evil now for some reason, and now we have to save the day by saving the woman for some reason. This whole game reeks of a small budget, small dev time, and small will to give a shit if there was any at all. It's almost impressive how the series just keeps getting worse and worse. No quality control, no passion, no agenda to make a good game first, just a marketable media mascot second. Accolade and Atari wanted their own Mario and or Sonic, but those two series, for as much as their companies promoted and paraded them around in the early 90s, especially you, my little blue whore, their games were still fun, and the devs improved their games after each entry while knowing how to nail down what makes them great. Their games got better and better. Mario focused on tight platforming that improves with each game, as well as their sense of exploration from linearity to multiple exits, paths, and routes. Sonic's level design kept improving from Sonic 1's decent foundation, expanded on greatly, and Sonic 2, with most levels now focusing on the superior splitting pathways approach of awarding high speed and quick reflexes with the harder to maintain high roads and punishing low roads, awarding more exploration similar to Sonic CD, and perfected in Sonic 3 and Knuckles with even more replayability with multiple playable characters, focusing on what works and what doesn't, and fixing and improving those aspects is how we got these classics, but just dashing forward with no goal or plan will lead you to stumble and crash. Like Crash Bandicoot, which came out just before.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Uranus! Was it something I said? What could possibly go wrong?
God, I wish I was fucking dead. Bubsy in 3D and Forbidden Planet. The series' big leap into 3D, like many of Bubsy's scrimblo bimblo counterparts were doing at the time, and most of the time, it wasn't very good. Lots of series transitioned very roughly into 3D. Insert Sonic joke here. Only a handful managed to pull it off successfully, and many more missed the mark so bad they died forever. Can you guess which one Bubsy fell into? Don't let the Gold X Award fool you. This game is one of the worst games I have ever played. The legends weren't exaggerating, the gospel was true. Bubsy 3D is a big piece of poo. The rhyming numbs the pain, but not the senses. Just look at it. Look at what I don't even think you could call graphics. It's just basic shapes and colors, trying to convey whatever the aimless concept was of this alien world is. That Bubsy arrived to make the Woolly's own personal hell. The sound being the worst as well. The sound design is so obnoxious, everything is just way too loud, including Bubsy himself, now voiced by Lonnie Manella, a legendary voice actress with an impressive resume.
Now some of us are back in diapers again, and others even drool.
Told to make the most ear-grating voice I have ever heard in a piece of media. The soundtrack ain't much better, we still got clown penis music to jam to. The game feels like and probably tastes and smells like it's slowly killing me. We got tank controls with 2 triggers for strafing left and right, and even with Croc, OG Resident Evil, and the Mega Man Legends games under my belt, this still feels like shit. Those games were designed much better with these controls in mind that are nowhere near as unruly as Bubsy. It feels like walking a stray cat on a leash, and once again you have 2 jumps, a normal jump and a glide, now in a much farther place in the controller, so combining them is a lot clunkier. And I'm sure you've noticed every time I jump, the camera pans down in an attempt to give you a better view on where to land. And I got used to it, but it just highlights how hopelessly dull these levels are. Empty 3D spaces constructed with the cheapest supplies from the hardware store dumpster, decorated by the most miserable class group project with the only supplies granted are at most 3 colors, hell not even that much. The hitboxes aren't as busted, but no less bullshit. Some enemies fire projectiles, and avoiding them is a hassle along with jumping on their minuscule hitboxes. And enemies ain't alone, we got these platforms, and what would a platform game be without platforms that kill you when you walk off them above hazardous terrain, locking you in a death animation? I'll tell you what it'd be. A better game, like the refurbished edition with new controls, and holy shit, it's like regaining the ability to walk after being crippled. It's too much. Like really, too much. Your momentum picks up a lot faster than the original, mostly because it's hard to move in the original, you'll hardly notice. And funny thing is, both versions have a turbo button, and I have no idea what the damn thing does. You take off so easily in this version, and the camera no longer pans down, which I never thought I'd miss, but it's a lot harder to land on these platforms and enemies now. At least it's easier to get these rockets that give me a free seizure. Oh, you shouldn't have. So even though the controls are better, you're still playing a massive piece of shit 3D platformer. You can polish a turd to a sheen, but it's still Bubsy 3D, a game so bad it fell into infamy as one of the worst games ever made. It killed the series and damned it to a legacy of mockery. Its name only brought up as a joke on what not to do in the medium of gaming, and for nearly 20 years, the world was at peace. After BC, Bubsy came AD. After death. But good times can never last. On December 17th, 2015, somehow, Bubsy returned. Bubsy Twofer, a re-release of the first two Bubsy games on Steam. As they say, any publicity is good publicity, and there's no power greater than memes. The DNA of the soul. Across those 20 years, a phenomenon known as the Internet was rising, where millions reach each other across the world in communication, for celebration and mockery of art. And there were those who came to entertain the masses, and what brings people closer together than a unified, unanimous hatred of a single name. And the one to answer the calls for a dead man is a being with no soul at all. Those fools asked for it, they applauded it. They didn't heed what their idols said. Okay, maybe this one, that was a good call. But they didn't know what could possibly go wrong.
What could possibly go wrong?
You know all those videos of people who play nothing but Call of Duty and FIFA say gaming is dead? God, I wish they were right. Released in 2017, developed by Black Forest Games, developers behind the Gianna Sister series and the Destroy All Humans. Ooh, yes please! I haven't played these games in so long, I forgot how fun they were. Bubsy had a new game, and it's just okay. Barely above the line of decent. The worst thing about it is when it came out, it was $30, but now it's $20, and I don't even think it's worth half that price. There's really nothing wrong with it fundamentally. It controls alright, the level design is competent, the music is generic but passable, much like the presentation itself. The new guy they got to voice him isn't as annoying. Bubsy can be a little too chatty, but you can turn that down. Yeah, this is, a game. A very short game that doesn't really give me any reason to play it more or even again after the credits. I beat this game in under 2 hours, and thus I was able to get a refund for it on Steam. But for some reason, I can't use any of my footage since it got corrupted out of nowhere, so thank you Project Longpay, I really didn't want to buy and play the game again. Since there's nothing about this game that deserves vitriolic hatred or loving praise, it just exists. In a year where retro platformers were making an enormous return. Mario never really went anywhere, but his big game Odyssey harkened back to older 3D titles. Crash Bandicoot made a huge comeback in the Insane Trilogy. Sonic Mania was an incredible throwback to the Bluebird's origins. The indie scene has been growing in years prior, and in that year we got 2 amazing 3D platformers in Yooka-Laylee and A Hat in Time. Platformers were having a renaissance, and it wasn't stopping there. A lot of old icons from the platforming scene back then were getting re-released via collections or re-releases on NSO. Remastered, remade, reignited with Spyro, rehydrated with motherfucking SpongeBob SquarePants. But there was someone missing here. And it starts with a B. And that's how we got here. The collection itself is a well-made preservation and museum tour-esque history lesson of this calamitous collection of cat turds. And sure, there are a dozen series Banjo that deserves this revival treatment a hell of a lot more than Bubsy, but it's not like this existing is keeping that series dormant. It's the massive conglomerate run by greedy dumbasses keeping that series dead. One day, my prince. There's no real harm in this being a thing. Anything that preserves gaming history, even just a little, and even if it's a terrible part of history, is a win in my book. We even have interviews with Ken Macklin, the artist of the series, and Farron Thomason, the guy who directed Bubsy Jaguar, as well as very extensive documents and concept art behind most of the game's developments. Look at them, all young and happy. Please face wall. I only wish we still had Michael Berlin around with us so we could get to know what he thought about Bubsy's recent return in popularity. I hope he rests in peace. As well as what he thinks about the upcoming new game Bubsy 4D, which, I'm not gonna lie to you, it looks really good. Brought to us by Fabraz, the talented indie devs behind the great 3D platformer Demon's Turf, which has a high recommendation from me, and from what I've seen in the trailers, might it be, hell probably will be, the best game in the series. Low bar, yes, but it does look like a quality 3D platformer, and if it turns out as good as it looks, then maybe, just maybe, gaming ain't dead after all. What could possibly go wrong? God, I wish I was playing Bubsy 4D right now.
I have a ball of yarn. I have a ball of yarn. Yay.
It has come to my attention that I forgot to mention the 2019 title Bubsy Paws on Fire, and I would like to take just a little more of your time to tell you about the great
Come on, keep reading, Gag Boy.
game this is. Paws on Fire is a wonderful 2D platformer, just like the Bubsy games of old was in a bold new direction for the series. The controls are no longer terrifically fast, since you no longer have control of his speed in this auto-runner platformer where you play as Bubsy and all his friends.
Go on, go on.
Across many wonderful levels for just $25. Who needs Silk Song for $12?